Mm. Hey, good. Sorry, I had to send something. Uh, okay. Do this. Oh, okay. Okay, we're checking out. This video is by Degenerate J. I like its content normally. Sorry. Alright, with the noise. Hopefully you can't hear it. But yeah, I'm lying to you again. I'm wearing the shorts. But yeah, check out his channel, check out this video. I just was curious about this video, and I want to react to this one. Okay.
One of the problems with Batman as he is there's a lack of good villains. Now hold on, before you get out the pitchforks, this is from Batman and DC legend Bruce Timm. And
from I don't know much about the comics. My previous knowledge is only with the Arkham video games, and that's really it. So it's gonna be hard. So I don't know about Riders. This guy must be popular. I've heard of him before. Bruce Timm.
And I've gone back, recently to kind of taking a look at some other people's takes. I don't really look at other YouTubers because I feel like that just, usually leads to unnecessary drama and clout chasing and BS. But when it comes to like professionals, when it comes to people actually in the sphere of creating,
I don't know. If I wanna, I quite like you, Degenerate J. I think you're a very credible source. I feel like you're not really biased, or if anything, you're biased toward the truth, and I've learned a lot about the Arkham games in particular, that most of your videos that I've seen, and I really like them. I think you should. I think you're a professional. I think you know a lot what you're talking about.
Some of these things that we love, Bruce Timm is someone who I truly admire in terms of his art. And what I mean is his artistic capability and the pieces he has made. For example, I purchased, I believe it's called Naughty and Nice. It's some of the more adult themed pinup pieces that Bruce Timm has created over the years. And
I have no idea what that would look like, that art piece, but hopefully he shows it.
Purchased that book a little while ago when it got reprinted because I love the style.
I mean, who doesn't like a sexy? Don't know what character this is, but who doesn't like a sexy looking character? But beyond that, the art, I think it's really good. It's really stylized. I like the style. Like the moon in the background. I don't know much about art, but I like it. I think it looks really clear. That's all I can say about it.
Style that he draws things in. He's a fantastic artist when it comes to making things show up.
Yeah, I think this looks really good too. Superman flying. This kind of looks like the art. He kind of looks like the Superman from Superman versus the Elite. Did Bruce Timm have any involvement in the comic version of that, I wonder?
Up visually, whether it be on a screen or on paper. Over the years,
then he might have had in the movie.
Bruce Timm has tried to enter more of a
looking Batgirl here. I like the really good looking drawing.
Creative role.
This looks like the animated series Batgirl too.
When it comes to writing, he's wanted to be the
Nicely drawn Zatanna. I like it. You don't see Zatanna anymore. I think they should make a Zatanna movie. I think that'd be good. I like the way she casts spells too. I like how they're cast backwards.
the person who tells people what to make come to life. I understand that desire, but it hasn't gone over the best.
That's a good Batman. Definitely reminds me of a animated series Batman. I mean, any Batman I always think of Kevin Conroy's Batman. You know, rest in peace.
Now, I do want to say this. This is not an attack on his artistic abilities, nor is it me saying that you should not watch Batman the Caped Crusader, which is what this interview was actually about. If you love the Caped Crusader,
I've been wondering if I should watch Batman the Caped Crusader myself. I've been curious about it. I've been hearing mixed things about it, but well, hopefully you'll talk about it.
Crusader, good for you. The reason I have not talked about it much is I'm very bored of DC rebooting their animated stuff, jumping from continuity to continuity. I really haven't enjoyed any of them as much as I enjoyed the old DCAU, which I've talked about several times. I know I'm old.
I've watched the I've actually watched Young Justice. I've watched Batman Bad Blood, Batman Under the Red Hood, all that kind of stuff too.
Old man who can't let it go, but that's just kind of where I'm at. There's standalone stuff I really like, but overall, I'm just not that interested in talking about Caped Crusader because I don't really have a passion for it, at least right now.
I'm more interested in the video games, obviously. The Arkham video games. I'm waiting for Arkham Shadow. I hope it's good. I hope it's a lot better than Suicide Squad, although I don't know how it could be worse than it. I didn't play Gotham Knights.
But I do have a passion about the character of Batman, and I do have a passion about the characters and worlds of DC Comics and Marvel Comics and all these other ones. So we're going to take...
I like the characters. I wouldn't say I'm passionate. I don't actively keep up to date myself. I just like the character, and I've obviously seen the live action Batman movies. I guess I've seen more than I thought. I guess. Okay.
Take a look at the entire context of this today, because I think that this statement is fundamentally false. He should know better than this. I do have a question for you for today, which is, do you have a favorite artist, whether it be a comic book artist?
Do I have a favorite artist? I don't know many artists, but no, I don't know many artists. You know what?
Artist, maybe a Patreon artist, or even just an animation artist. I would love to hear why you like them, what you like so much about their work, because I love art, so I will definitely be checking that out when you let me know.
Oh, he doesn't mean specifically DC artists. My favorite is Akira Toriyama. I love the way he's draws characters. You know, a lot of them look the same, but I've always liked the way my one I always go to it the first time. I believe he drew it the first time he drew Goku going Super Saiyan. I've always enjoyed that piece of art. I think, especially watching it for the first time, even though he didn't animate the show. But I've seen the manga panel enough time to be like, I really enjoy that. He especially with the emotion that I invoke from it. I think, all right, that's my favorite. I guess tell me your favorite artist. Akira Toriyama is my favorite.
You know, I did also want to point out there's several ways to support this channel. Some of them I will flash through the video. Unfortunately,
yeah, subscribe to Degenerate J. You know, I just like reacting to videos, and this one got me curious. Sorry, I got a text.
Actually, I will not be flashing you, but I will show you some of the ways. And some of the ways are actually things like our other channels. Like, for example, we have Magical Jill, where we talk about
Magical Jill.
A lot of animation stuff because we
check out Magical Jill. I didn't know. I didn't know he had the channel because what I really hate about YouTube is what they recently got rid of the you used to be able to look at the different channels that each channel had. So they would just be in the description. Hey, click down. Oh, this is, you can go this one, and they'll all be in the same thing. Now they're not linked in there, and it kind of sucks. Okay, I'll check out that channel later.
Because we talk about anime. We also have JRPG, where I talk about role-playing games, Japanese role-playing games, stuff like that. And, of course, as well, Degenerate Plays, which I hope some of you check out because that channel does not really grow very much. But we play...
I've known about Degenerate Plays. Damn. I've known about... maybe just on mobile, but I don't remember all this. I'll look it up.
Through video games over there. We've actually played through some Arkham stuff over there. We will be playing through more in the future, and a lot of superhero games too. Currently, we're playing through Assassin's Creed 1 and Stellar Blade, so it's been a lot of fun. Bruce Timm.
What I would like Degenerate to talk about God of War. I really want to hear his opinion on God of War.
Him and co-executive producer James Tucker were actually part of an interview answering questions about Batman Caped Crusader when it was coming out on Amazon's Prime Video service. Worth mentioning, this was originally for HBO, but then WB got really damn cheap and decided to basically scrap it and made them shop it out to another place. They were talking about this with Emmys.com.
Oh, that's disappointing.
And Bruce Timm was answering questions about the entire series. And they were talking a little bit about the characters in it, and they actually talked about the villains because the interviewer said, I clapped when
I might have to bust down the quality. Oh, 40p is okay.
When I saw the Penguin was a woman, and they went on to talk about it a little bit. I want to clarify here, I don't care that the Penguin is a woman. We'll get to that in a couple minutes. But
my take on that stuff is, or if the character was originally male, I think you should make the character male unless you have a really good compelling reason. But because why? Just why, you know? And yeah, just why? But and also more importantly,
what followed this question,
more importantly to that, the writing is more important than the gender of the character because obviously, well, obviously you can still write a good story if the gender is different, but they're both important. There's just level to it.
Question, or I guess statement, about why they made that choice to change Penguin is what's very fascinating to me, where Bruce Timm answered and said, James Tucker and I were talking about the overview of the show, and we said, one of the problems with Batman as he is there is a lack of good villains.
I find that really baffling. For one, you got Joker, you got Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, as they're saying here. You got Catwoman, more of an more like a anti-hero. You got the Riddler. You got what Scarecrow. Don't know why I couldn't remember the name. You got Bane. You got all these characters. Two-Face.
Catwoman. You've got
Killer Croc.
Poison Ivy.
Deathstroke, Deadshot. Now I'm just naming characters.
You've got Harley Quinn. But it would be really good to have more female
Deathstroke's more of a Teen Titans villain.
Villains. And off the top of my head, I said, well, we never really could figure out exactly what to do with the Penguin, what the gimmick for Penguin would be. What if we gender flipped the Penguin?
What are you talking about? The gimmick for Penguin was always just he likes penguins and he's my boss.
Tucker then answered and said, when he, talking about Bruce Timm, said, maybe we can gender flip Penguin, I just got this flood of ideas. I was thinking of Marlene Dietrich in her tuxedo and Cabaret, the musical and the art form, and kind of went on talking about it and talking about how he knew what he wanted to make it. But in general, they then said that was the mission statement for the show in general, to do something that
It seems like he had more interest in what the character would look like than what they did with it, with what kind of storyline, which makes me worried about the show.
Back to the original, but flip it. We've seen live action and animated versions of Batman on TV.
Stop asking research questions to ChatGPT. Its answers are not reliable, and they are difficult.
They were talking about basically why they made that decision to make Penguin a woman. Now, I know that this has been a point of controversy for some, especially with all the DEI stuff, inclusivity, etc. And
and just why? If clearly, just why would you do it? I think even if you don't want to talk about the DEI stuff, the diversity inclusivity stuff, it sounds like from the interview he just didn't know much about the Penguin. He didn't know his motif with penguins, or it seems like he didn't, or that he was a mob boss,
I will absolutely concede that there have been many, many, many shows, movies, books, etc., that prioritize whatever their message is over the quality of the art. Remember when we talked about Ta-Nehisi Coates turning the Red Skull into a caricature of Jordan Peterson in Captain America?
I do remember that. I've seen a dead video on that. Go subscribe to Short Fat Otaku
comics, because a lot of creators care more about trying to take a dig at someone in real life, or be like, we owned Orange Man, LOL, got him, in our comic book or our movie or something like that, than they do about telling a good story.
That is very unfortunate. He's right. It does seem to, for a while now, there has been a very big move to push more towards, taking a dig at people than actually doing some writing, which is very unfortunate. I don't know how it keeps happening, because it's not very successful. Look at Batwoman. That wasn't a very successful show. Look at Supergirl. Look at the whole the Flash, all that stuff. That was less DEI. That was less taking digs at people, but it still did. Look at Damsel.
Story. I do agree with that is a thing that happens.
The movie She Said.
I do also think that some people are way too jumpy about that. Every time they see a black character or a woman or something, they're like, "Oh no, it's woke! Stop, please!"
I think it's true. You need to see you need to look at the product all the way through before you come to any conclusion. I agree with that. Shouldn't jump to conclusions.
I don't really have a big opinion on Penguin being a woman. I really, frankly, couldn't care less because this is a random alternate universe of Batman. That said,
Well, if it's an alternate universe, that's what I was thinking, but I didn't say it. If it's an alternate universe Batman, maybe I'm okay with that. Doesn't matter. I care more about the writing.
and something that's funny to me about it is the idea that it had to be done because Batman doesn't have good villains.
Yeah, and there's also something that, like I said, worries me.
I'm going to be really, really charitable here because if we were talking about just all of his villains, you're looking at Joker, Ra's al Ghul, Mr. Freeze, Penguin, obviously.
Yeah, Ra's al Ghul, Mr. Freeze. I don't know how you can say he doesn't have good villains.
As a male villain, of course. You're looking at all of these mainstays, Mad Hatter, just off top of my head. You would be the dumbest person alive to say that he has no good villains or he doesn't have enough good villains. I'm going to be really charitable here and just assume that he's talking about female villains only and that he...
I wouldn't agree with that. Poison Ivy, she's a really good villain. Catwoman, villain, non-villain, sometimes villain, sometimes ally. Yeah, maybe not a lot. But why does the gender matter? Yeah, why does the gender matter? And why take an established villain and make him gender flipped? I think because you want the popularity to go with your new character. You got some Miss Armstrong, that might be a real character, but Miss Armstrong, let's say you created the new Batman character, Miss Armstrong. It's not going to be as popular as Penguin. I think that's part of the reason why the gender flipping is happening, because they want to create their own character, their own female character, but they want it to be immediately popular. So they take from something that's popular.
He misspoke, right? That's not what he said, but let's just assume he misspoke because I'm sure I have a billion times in my own videos said something stupid where I meant to say something else. Even if this is only about female villains, it doesn't make any sense at all, and it's absolutely ridiculous. I wanted to run through some of the common villains Batman has, less common, and even DCAU created villains that are female, because there is a lot of them that I came up with both off the top of my head and just from glancing at a couple articles to remind myself of some of the villains that Batman has had over the years. Now, Batman had articles to remind myself of some of the villains that Batman has had.
I haven't played Injustice much. Injustice too much, but it has a fucking weird helmet for Black Manta. That's a weird helmet, I'm telling you.
Has had over the years. Now, Batman has villains like Catwoman, obviously, and I'm going to say Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. The thing with those three is that they often aren't villains anymore. So we could just drop all of them off the list and say, well, maybe he didn't want to use ones that aren't really villains anymore. The problem is that he is still using characters like that in the show. They are still in the show. Like, for example, Harley Quinn is just a straight up...
And I don't...
villain
okay
in the show.
Okay, she's a villain in the show, but I don't like this idea of making Harley Quinn an anti-hero or trying to, and having Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn have a relationship. I mean, why would a plant woman want to have sex? I mean, I thought the whole sexual seductress thing was just to try and, kill people. Maybe. I don't know.
Went back more to her roots. So it's not like he's averse to using characters that have kind of changed over the years. Like, for example, Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn are now pretty much a couple in most everything. And while they're not exactly the best people alive in terms of morality,
they're putting it a bit lightly.
Try to do right by people. They've kind of left behind their just straight up villainous ways. If he was...
you can do the story right, but a lot of the time they just go right to her being not a villain anymore. They don't go into how it happened, you know? Oh, I've moved away from the Joker. No, we're not going to tell how that story went, or we're going to gloss over it really quickly.
Was saying, well, no, we can't use any characters that have changed over the years. The perception has changed. I would say we could drop these three. The problem is he still does use characters like that in his show. But there are other common characters as well. Like, for example, the second Copperhead, you have Cheetah, you have Punchline, which is a big one in, the newer comic books, Ventriloquist, but the version of it that's Peyton Riley. You also have other characters as well that are less popular, or I guess I should say less common, that don't come up quite as much. I don't remember if I mentioned Killer Frost or not on the popular ones, but she's one that I think is also overlooked. In terms of less common, you have characters like Cheshire, who's,
Hey, I'll be right back. I gotta go. I'm not turning up the stream.
usually portrayed as a deadly assassin. You have Sophia Falcone, which is Carmine Falcone's daughter, Lady Shiva, the White Rabbit, and then there's all these characters for the DC.
Yeah, I forgot Lady Shiva. I need to go back into Batman stuff. I've gotten into more Stargate, Atlantis universe, SG-1. I'm watching a lot of that.
That became popularized or even sometimes created for the DCAU projects. Like from Batman Beyond, you have Curare, the DDs, you have Inc. In the old DCAU Batman animated series show, you had Red Claw, Roxy Rocket, the Phantasm, for Mask of the Phantasm. If Tim's point was, well, we don't want to use ones that we already made up for the DCAU, like, that character was made up.
Yeah, if you don't want to make... if you want to use the ones that were already made, why not make your new one? I think the motive is I want mine to be popular, and why don't I just gender flip a popular character? I can get more popularity that way, potentially. At least more eyes on me, because nobody would be not popular.
Made up for the DCAU. If we just reuse
comparatively
them, then we're just rehashing it. I'd say, okay, well then we can knock 6 of these off the list right there. But the problem is that Harley Quinn was originally created, with Paul Dini, Bruce Timm, and crew basically for the DCAU, for Batman the Animated Series, and Tim still wanted to bring back and reinvent that character here. So he doesn't have any qualms with reusing existing characters. He doesn't have any problem with reusing ones that were originally just for the DCAU. He seems to have no problem with taking characters that exist and putting them in the show. Now, like I said before, I actually don't care that Penguin is a woman, because I'm sure someone will take this and say, oh, Jay's talking about this because he's mad that they made Penguin a woman. I don't know how many times I can stress this. I don't care if Penguin is a woman.
Yeah, I mean, I care. I care about the I care about more about the motive, because if it's not the DI stuff, I think it might be the I can make my character be popular by just gender flipping. But I definitely care more about the writing. But yeah, I'm not angry. I'm just interested.
A woman. I do not care. My care levels of Penguin being a woman are about the same as when Jeffrey Wright played Commissioner Gordon in, of course, the Batman movie. I thought he was great. I thought he was fun.
Yeah, again, I thought Jeffrey Wright or what he was a good Gordon. He was black, but I cared more about the writing.
I think there's times where this kind of thing definitely works, where the character on screen is not necessarily the exact way that they originally showed up in the comic books or in animation or whatever. I do also
the writing is ultimately the most important thing. At least I think. Writing and the world.
A little aside, there's a lot of times where it's just done for the sake of flipping or changing something. To me, that's what it sounds like Bruce Timm was doing, was, well, how do we take all the classic stuff and just flip it around? He even said that. To me, that's not very creative, but it's also not upsetting, where I'm like, no, turn off this woke show.
Although, it could be very, very innocent. Oh, I just want to do something crazy, Yeah, it could be something innocent like that. Maybe I've become too jaded.
A woman, oh no! Like, I've seen plenty of examples of male Oswald Cobblepot. I've got a billion adaptations of that character. I think they're fun, and I wasn't really that interested in Caped Crusader anyway, either way, where it would affect me regardless. But this idea that Batman doesn't have good villains, so that's why we have to change things, is what is upsetting to me. Not the thing that's even being changed. I don't care. The idea that Batman, his rogues gallery is bad. This is so funny to me because Bruce Timm has been involved in a lot of dumb stuff over the years, which I'm probably throwing out my opportunity to ever get a signed autograph from Bruce Timm if I ever do make it big on this platform.
I mean, he probably wouldn't see this video. I don't think someone that's saying, oh, Batman doesn't have good villains is watching a lot of YouTube videos about Batman and his villains.
Platform, but I digress. I do want to talk about these.
Especially
this game. You're not ready for it.
And I never will.
All the way back to like 2014, 15-ish, I was noticing Bruce Timm kind of step in piles of shit and say dumb things or be involved in very, very dumb situations. Like, for example, when he was on a panel over The Killing Joke, and he was talking about their decision to have Barbara sleep with Batman in this movie.
Yeah, I don't understand why they would do that. That's never been, again, like that. It feels icky to me because if Batman and Batgirl definitely feel more like a father-daughter relationship, and that creeps me out,
Movie, which was kind of ridiculous. And look, I'm actually okay with it in the DCAU. I'm one of the few people who think that for the story that they did with, Return of the Joker and stuff like that, I think that...
No, like imagine going to your, let's say you, me, let's say we're like 30, let's say we're like 30, right? You and me. Screen, right? And we, you have a daughter who's like 18, 19, 20, and I go to your daughter, I'm like, hey, I want to hit that. Wouldn't you be weirded out? It's just weird. It's not illegal. It's weird and creepy, like go someone for your own age. I have a friend who just got out of a bad relationship. Legal stuff too, with a 52-year-old.
That the Batman Barbara thing works. I'm not saying it's
He was around my age.
Best thing ever. I'm saying it works for that story. But they were shoehorning that with, writer Brian Azzarello into Batman the Killing Joke, the movie. They had one of the worst preludes to a film I've ever seen. It was just tacked on and it dragged the whole film down. And somebody basically called that out and was saying, why is this character using sex in order to be a character, essentially? Because they were talking about it on this panel and someone called that out in the audience. And Brian Azzarello, one of the writers who also worked on Batman Damned, had a meltdown here. This is one of the reasons why I think that his relationship with DC deteriorated over the years, including just stuff around Batman Damned that he said, where he called out the audience member and called them a pussy. He was like, you know, you want to say that again, pussy? And yelled at them.
Yeah, you definitely shouldn't. Definitely, if I get popular and stuff like that, or if I definitely wouldn't say something like that if I was on a panel. Like, were you trying to fight this person? That's some really, really childish shit.
Keep in mind, this is a professional. Like, this is one of the people who writes comic books, who was involved in screenwriting.
That's something me and my friends say to each other. To each other, not some random fucking person on stage where you're supposed to act professionally and put out a certain level of professionalism, you know?
Film at a official panel.
That would be awkward.
Calling a fan slash, I don't know if you'd say reporter, basically someone in the audience, a pussy, and just screaming it at them. Like, that's like what a toddler would do, right? We've called that out before and said that the guy's kind of an idiot for that. Far more monetarily successful than I'll ever be, but I bet a lot of people are more successful than me that are also idiotic in their statements. Now, Bruce Timm didn't really do much to really...
Not saying he is, but there probably is a level of, when you get to a certain level of success, you feel like you can say whatever. That probably might be part of it.
Stop this at all. He just kind of like didn't even diffuse the situation. He just kind of jumped in and said, well, it's complicated. I actually like that in the opening story, both Batman and Batgirl make a series of mistakes, and then it kind of escalates because Batman kind of overreacts, and then she overreacts to his overreaction. It's a very human thing. And so he didn't really diffuse the situation. He just walked right past it and started talking about something, because
he might have just felt really awkward about it. With like, okay, move past it, get past it, you know?
Bruce Timm doesn't really know how to deal with some of these conversations. That's something that I've noticed for a very long time. Something else I've noticed as well was kind of his defense of the Batman and Harley Quinn movie, which he was one of the key writers on, instead of just
Isn't that the one where Batman and Harley Quinn get together? It might be. That's a weird concept. If it is, I don't like, why would Batman ever want to, for one, don't stick your dick in crazy. And two, Batman wouldn't do that. Like, Batman would just put Harley Quinn right in jail, you know, all that kind of stuff. Arrest her. They wouldn't be working together.
Animating it, which was kind of a disaster of a film. I don't think it's as awful as some people say, but it's definitely not very good. Now, for those of you who might not know, Paul Dini is one of the creative masterminds behind the original
heard of him.
DCAU, and especially behind Batman the Animated Series. His writing was something that elevated the series to new heights, and it really helped combine almost like a dynamic duo type of interaction with him and Bruce Timm's art that elevated that show and propelled the DCAU to where it became beloved. The problem with Bruce Timm is that while I think his art style is pretty irreplaceable in terms of being very unique, sadly, when it comes to a show, if you have style but no substance, or a movie or anything, people can tell. When you have a writer and that writer elevated your thing to completely new heights, it's hard to replace that. So when Paul Dini left and Bruce Timm was kind of left on his own to work on all these projects without Paul Dini, who now, you know, is doing things like the Batman animated adventures continue, comic books, things like that, Paul Dini is still writing well, right? Well, Bruce Timm left the lane that he was most used to and best at. Not saying creatives can't do that, but he left that lane of just art, and Paul Dini mainly stayed in his lane that he was really good at of just writing. When Bruce left that lane and he tried to push more into writing, into producing, and into all these things, the artistic side of these projects stayed very good, especially when he was involved, but it felt like the writing it's like he was lacking that spark. He was lacking that creative ingenuity without Paul Dini, which is just
Oh, that kind of makes sense. You know, maybe two of them working. The two of them working together were the best, and when one left, you know, it was just like, well, you know, he didn't have all the talent. He it was like a completion type thing.
unfortunate. And that's why I think a lot of this stuff keeps happening, because that dynamic duo element of Paul Dini and Bruce Timm working together, it was something where when you look at Paul Dini writing comic books now, it's not Bruce Timm drawing them. That's why I'm saying that you can put in another artist who does very good work. And if you still have that really great, you know, writing style,
You know, it just doesn't feel the same. I like in the Arkham series, I like the different voice in Arkham Origins. I like different voice actors for Batman and Joker. You know, they sound good, but you know, it just doesn't feel right. You know, it doesn't feel right to me unless it's Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy.
or really captivating writing style, people still will really, really enjoy it. But if you lose the writing style and you just have the style of the art,
Yeah.
which is something that's happened a lot with Bruce Timm's work over the years, people will notice and people will be frustrated, especially then when that artist is leaving what they're great at to try and pursue different aspects of their career that aren't necessarily working out the best. Now, my wife Jill actually had probably the most scathing review of Bruce Timm's comments that I've seen online so far, but also that kind of encapsulate how a lot of audience members feel about his takes over the years. Maybe he should just go back to being an artist and shut the fuck up. He sounds like an idiot here.
I mean, maybe he's not used to criticism. Not a lot of people can handle criticism, and especially if you're not used to criticism, you're not going to respond well. That might be it. You know, he probably doesn't look at a lot of the reviews of his work. You know, when people criticize it, he probably can't handle it. And that's fair, but you know, calling someone a pussy, not very professional.
And that's something that I think, as brutal as it is, made me laugh hysterically, but it's really true. Like, I have a degree in writing, right? Basically in writing and in teaching English and things like that. That's just kind of the breakdown of it. But there are things that I'm not very good at, whether it be writing styles that I'm not very good at, whether it be an art form that I'm not very good at. If I became a renowned writer right now, I became a renowned writer for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. And then I decided writing's not good enough. I want to draw too. I want to be an artist.
Drawing is so hard too.
I'm flipping this on its script. I'm doing what he did with Batman the Caped Crusader. I'm just taking it and I'm flipping it here.
Oh, there's so many ads.
We gave ourselves 1 year to get this
You get an
dialed
ad
in,
blocker.
from idea to finished product that we can actually
Welcome
start.
to you, Jay.
If I went from renowned writer
I still live here.
to artist overnight, I'm going to have some problems, right? Because it's not what I'm used to. It's not what I'm good at. It doesn't mean I could never get good at it, but there are some people who just aren't cut out for certain lines of work, who don't know what they're talking about, but they are amazing at other lines of work. Same way if I went from my job of teaching at a high school and then all of a sudden I decided I'm going to be a plumber. I don't know anything about plumbing. I don't know what I'm doing there. Even if I watched a plumber for a few years, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be good at it. You have to do a lot of learning and have a lot of humility and go back to ground zero in order to start something new. And I don't think Bruce Timm really ever did. I think he just jumped right into it, thought, well, I worked with Paul.
Yeah, exactly. He may have thought, he's just going to make my point. He may have thought, well, I worked with this really good guy. You know, I can do it. It doesn't look too hard.
Dini, I worked with all these other writers. I'm an amazing artist. I can do it. And I think that that's fallen flat over the years. And I think that this description of Batman not having good villains is like the ultimate description of that. It's like, bro, you worked on Batman projects for years of your life. You brought amazing.
He may have not been paying attention too hard to the characters. He may have just been focusing on drawing the characters.
Characters to life. You worked on shows that created new villains from the ground up, from scratch. Not even adaptations. You wrote, like, you guys made them up and put them on a show. And you still think Batman doesn't have enough good villains that you have to change the Penguin. Again, I don't care about the change, but like that's just a weak reasoning in order to do it. It's just, at that point, you might as well just say, I thought it would be fun. That's all you have to say. You don't have to say it's because Batman has bad villains. You don't have to say anything like that. Just, I thought it would be neat. Cool.
Again,
That's called
he may not be good, very good at speaking.
creativity. It's not that creative to just take some man and turn them into a woman, but hey, it's at least something with some kind of ingenuity or creative aspect or imagination behind it.
It's kind of the bottom of the barrel for creativity. I'm just gonna make the character female, but it's a one. It's not if you're taking the character. If you just have the Penguin, he's at a 0. He's a Penguin right here. Nothing else. You know nothing about him, right? Nothing about him, right? You only know that his character is male. And you suddenly write a story about him being female. That's one. That's a creative department that's turning into a 1, maybe a 0.5.
Than trying to justify it by putting down decades of mythos and lore to say, no, it wasn't good enough. But then we came along and we made it better. I mean, all these idiots before us, they couldn't write any female villains for Batman. It's like, well, maybe some of this is also from the time.
Also, I've seen that door animation so much, but that door had to be so heavy, I wonder. It wouldn't be solid metal, but it would be so heavy.
Times that these things were created. Like, you look at statistics, men are more likely to fall into violent crime because of our social structure, because of the idea of providing, because of the idea of economic disparity, because men
are just more testosterone, and between male relationships, there is the idea of a low level of violence.
Are taught to measure our egos. We're taught to be successful or you're a bum. We're taught not to share our feelings in a lot of ways. And then we internalize things, and then those externalize as pain. You can see a lot of those things in Batman the Animated Series. A great example of that is Mad Hatter, a character who was basically trying to be sincere, trying to share his feelings over and over again. And then he, I would say, internalized those things and became more and more bitter and then became a villain. It does happen with women too, but it's just more common for men to turn to violent crime. So it stands to reason that there would be more male supervillains or villains for Batman than female. That doesn't mean there aren't a lot of great female ones. I just don't understand where this comes from. Like, you're looking at it from the lens of the work he did. You're looking at the lens from the work that he should be aware of, or even real life crime statistics. None of this statement makes any sense at all. And it just comes off very conceited to say, well, all this lore before us wasn't good enough. We had to change it to make our own thing because it wasn't good enough, instead of just because we wanted to be creative and different. That's all you.
Well, again, it's very low on just making a male character into a female. It's very low in the creative department. But it's creative. You can't. That's true.
All you had to do. Anyways, let us know what you think in the comments down below. I'm always interested in your thoughts on stuff like this. And usually when stuff like this comes up, people will take one little statement and run with it, like in terms of like, oh, what do you...
I'm going to leave him a comment. He wants me to...
If he was saying...
He probably... Okay, I'll have to comment.
He doesn't like Penguin being a woman for the 50th time. I do not care at all. I just find this to be very dumb reasoning, but I'm interested in your thoughts down there. If you want to support our channel, you can use Fortnite code DJAY123. You can also use that same code on our store, CosmoBunny.shop. Now, I've seen a lot of confusion on this shop. I try and clarify pretty much every time, but what we do is we take comic books, manga, and even, of course, magazines that can't be sold because they're damaged, and we actually repurpose bits and pieces of them into a transformative art piece for you.
I couldn't pause it. See, eventually, that's a cool background. What's my background? I just have a wall. Well, I could look behind you, but I just have a fucking wall. I need to get more stuff, but I'm poor. I'm like him. You know? X23. Anyway, let's continue.
For your home. Sometimes these are coasters, sometimes they're keychains, sometimes they're trays, light switch covers, etc. The list goes on and on. We do not print out pictures to steal IP or steal art. We are taking actual pictures and pages.
These are pretty. Yeah, check all this stuff out. This stuff looks really cool.
From different things that have been created that are going to landfills really at this point, that were mass produced, and we take some of that, we place it in a
I thought it was a forget the thing, but a little dish for weed. I thought it was one of those. Yeah, I'm not as wholesome as him, apparently.
Coaster, keychain, tray, etc. We turn it into something new and something for your
We got a little tray of Magneto
home that I think you'll enjoy. So we hope you like that. Like I said, DJAY123 for 10% off your first purchase. CosmoBunny.shop. Hope DJAY1 and something for your home that I think you'll enjoy. So we hope you like that.
Let's listen to that one more time.
Like I said, DJAY123 for 10% off your first purchase. CosmoBunny.shop. Hope you have a fantastic day. And as always, everyone, stay shui.
Stay straight, shui. Well, okay. Anyway, thank you for checking out my video. Like, subscribe, and comment to my video and Degenerate J. And have a great day. Bye.